Do you ever lie awake at night, replaying the same thought over and over again, and absolutely getting nowhere? I know my overthinking was completely taking over my life several years ago. In fact, it was one of the major driving forces behind me starting on this journey. I realised if I carried on in this loop of overthinking, I was going to send myself mad. And the problem is, overthinking actually feels productive, doesn't it? It does feel like we're solving problems, but it's the biggest way to drain your energy, disconnect from your life and feel stuck. So today I'm going to show you why overthinking happens and how to stop it, so that you can feel clear, calm and alive again, so that you can get your life back. So let's look at what overthinking is. So like we've said, it's the mind just looping without resolution. Your mind keeps running the same thought, the same scenario over and over, but you never reach a decision or a solution, or you never get a sense of peace around your thinking. It's like being stuck on this big mental hamster wheel. There's lots of movement, but you're not actually getting anywhere. You're not getting a result. And this is often about the past. What if I'd said that in this situation instead? It could be about the future. What if this goes wrong? Or even present situations. You just can't stop analysing, overthinking, and it's exhausting. Our brains use an incredible amount of energy just to think. So when we're looping, we're spending that energy on the same mental track, but there's no forward progress. And this constant mental processing, it really drains you. It can leave you feeling tired, irritable, and just have less capacity for actually solving problems or being creative and imaginative and having fun. It's like leaving 50 browsers open on your computer all day. The system's going to slow down, it's going to overheat, and it can't focus on the task in front of it. And as well as using up energy, overthinking disconnects you from your body and from the present moment. We're pulling our attention into the head all the time and away from our senses in our body. So we stop noticing our breath. We stop noticing how we're standing, our posture, our surroundings, and we can lose touch with what is actually happening in the here and now. And this disconnection means that we miss messages from the body that can only come when we've got embodied awareness, Because our bodies, they're always communicating with us, aren't they? There's lots of useful information. And this could help us feel better about making our decisions, make better decisions and be more present in our relationships and feel less stuck and feel less in our heads. And often the answers that we're searching for, they're more likely to emerge when we're grounded in our bodies than when we're just trapped in our heads, repeating. I've actually started using my body to make my big life decisions. I know, it was quite a crazy thing for me. It's just I realised that if I was stuck in my head over analysing, I was never going to get anywhere. So now I consult my inner wisdom and my intuition on everything. I come into my body. So what's going on in the nervous system when we overthink? Well, the mind is trying to keep us safe, believe it or not. If your body senses uncertainty, discomfort or threat, even if it's subtle, your mind can jump into overdrive, trying to predict every possible outcome so it feels in control. But this control is an illusion. And the more you try to think your way to safety, the more anxious and disconnected you feel. Because real safety comes from regulating the nervous system, not abandoning it, not from endless running mental scenarios. And what causes us to overthink in the first place? Well, if you think about it, from an early age at school, we're trained to prioritise thinking over feeling, aren't we? At school we're rewarded for analysing, remembering things, producing mental answers. We're not rewarded for noticing our body or being in touch with our emotions. Most jobs value problem solving, planning, and just constant mental engagement. So we learn that being in our head is what makes us productive and valuable. And social media amplifies this, I think, all the endless scrolling, just looking and comparing. It keeps us mentally stimulated, but physically disconnected. And over time, this conditioning means many of us, we don't even realise when we're just in our heads. I know this was me for decades. It became our default state. I thought that's who I was. And we actually forget that there's another way to live. We don't even realise it. And many of us grew up in environments where mistakes were punished and emotions were unsafe. You know, you may have learned that the best way to avoid pain was to preempt everything, to pre-analyze everything. You know, thinking things through became a survival strategy. If I can predict every outcome, I might be able to avoid being hurt, judged, or rejected. But it doesn't work. And it can become a cage, a prison. And it stops you from taking healthy risks and from feeling deeply and from trusting your own instincts. When your mind is busy analysing, planning and replaying, it feels like you're taking action sometimes, but in reality, nothing in your external world is shifting. And this false safety can feel comforting in the short term. It's because it delays the discomfort of actually taking action or feeling an emotion. But long term, it keeps you stuck in the same loops, reinforcing the belief that thinking more is the answer. You know, when actually it's the block. So when you're caught in overthinking, we're actually missing out on our life. Decisions can get delayed and opportunities are missed. You know, a delay could mean that the job that you wanted gets offered to someone else. It could mean that conversation that you really wanted with someone that you needed to have never happened. Or that trip that you've been dreaming about, you know, it just keeps getting put off, postponed. But life doesn't wait for you to be ready. And by the time you've thought things through, maybe the moment's passed, you know. So over time, this builds a quiet regret in us as well that can weigh heavier than the fear of taking the leap in the first place. Overthinking keeps your mind in a constant what-if loop. And this actually fuels anxiety. And it can make you start to question your own abilities. So instead of feeling confident in your decisions, you start doubting every single choice before, during, and after you've made it. And that constant inner questioning, it erodes our self-trust. You stop believing you can handle whatever's coming next. And it also creates decision fatigue, you know, where even small decisions, what to wear, what to eat, they start to feel overwhelming. I know that was me for years. I could look at a menu and not know what to eat. And there's a physical element to this as well, don't forget. When your mind is overactive, your body mirrors this state. You know, tight shoulders, clenched jaw, restless hands and feet. Overthinking also tends to shorten and shallow our breathing. So this is keeping us in a low-level stress response that becomes normal for us. And this constant activation drains your energy, making you feel tired, even if you haven't done much. And over time, that physical stress can contribute to headaches, you know, digestive issues, muscle pain, and weakened immunity. So, what can we do? Well, the first thing, of course, is to interrupt the overthinking loop. And a good way to do this is when you notice you're replaying the same thought again and again, or the same scenario, just say to yourself out loud if you can, overthinking. You name it. And this is a simple act, but it pulls us out of automatic and signals to your brain that we've made a choice. You know, we're off autopilot. It's like pressing the pause button when we're watching a film. You stop the momentum and then you can create space to respond differently. So that's the first thing. Then we have to come out of our mind and into the body. This is so important. So just slow down. You know, notice your breath. How are you breathing? Feel your feet pressing into the ground. And can you regulate your breath? You know, by breathing in the same amount as you exhale. Consciously try and unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, and relax your stomach. Let your stomach breathe in and out. And this works because your body and mind are connected. And when you calm your body, you're sending a signal to your nervous system that it's safe. It's safe to relax. And this helps quieten the mind, the mental noise. Because overthinking pulls you into imagined futures or replayed pasts. So bring yourself back to the present moment. You know, ask, what is actually happening now? And then ask yourself, what are you aware of in your surroundings? And just start to notice. If you're outside, the wind on your skin, the temperature of the room if you're inside, the sounds you hear around you, the feeling of your clothes on your skin, feeling your feet on the ground. And this sensory grounding reconnects you to the present moment. You can't be thinking if you're connecting with your environment. And then try and take action. Overthinking is all about inaction, isn't it? So the more you can create space in your mind, the more choice that you have. And then choose just one doable step towards the thing that you're thinking about. Send the email, make that call, write the first sentence, or put on your walking shoes and go out, lie down and relax, do a guided meditation. And it doesn't have to be the whole situation you're going to solve then, but just enough to signal to your brain, I'm moving forward, and this action shifts you from ruminating to momentum. And momentum quietens down the brain, the mind. And remember, your mind is a tool, it's not the driver. The mind is to serve us. So when you drop out of overthinking and into life, you're reconnecting with your life energy, your creativity, your essence. So today, try and think about this. Interrupt the thoughts, drop into your body, and then just take a small action. And I'd love to know how it goes for you. So please comment if you've got anything to report about this. And as always, thank you for being on this journey with me, and please subscribe and let me know how these videos help you. I'd really love to know. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.